Well, Mets fans, it's finally happened. Carlos Mendoza has been fired as the manager of the New York Mets. It's about a month and a half too late, which that's probably the most frustrating part of this, but Andy Green has been announced as the interim manager. Shout out my dad for being first to that, calling Andy Green all the way back in April when the Mets really were starting to stink it up.
Right,
so
Big
Andy
Mark.
Green could be the guy. Shout out Big Mark. But Carlos Mendoza era is over, and it was not a good one.
No, was not a good one. We're going to have two kind of parts that we talk about with this Carlos Mendoza firing. One is the fact that I think he was a poor manager.
Yes.
Two is the fact that there's no way this was all his fault. Both of those things
not.
can be true right now. I think if you take a scroll on Twitter, you would think Carlos Mendoza, spent his free time, I don't know,
Mother Teresa.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what he was doing that maybe we don't know about. Maybe there is a lot he was doing that we don't know about. Maybe that'll all come out. I'm excited for what's going to come out.
Can't wait.
Because now we're going to get some great anonymous quotes, sourcing, articles. Whenever Will Salmon or Anthony DiComo decides to write the next book, that's going to be amazing with great quotes from Carlos Mendoza here. But I think that's the story, is that even the game last night, let's talk anecdotally, just briefly. There was a golden opportunity in the fifth inning. Left-hander Matthew Boyd is being taken out of the game because Mark Vientos coming to the plate. Mark Vientos, for all of his warts, demolishes left-handed pitching. Absolutely demolishes them. There is a runner on first. I think Soto had just drawn a walk or had a single, bringing the righty to face Vientos. And you have Jared Young sitting on the bench. Jared Young has become the starter for this team against all right-handed pitching at first base, sometimes DH, sometimes corner outfield. And a situation where every single game where a pitcher with that handedness starts the game and Jared Young gets the playing time, gets the plate appearances, he does it in this situation. Mark Vientos has a horrible at-bat. Go into the field, the first play, the next inning. Ronnie Mauricio doesn't make the best throw from shortstop, which, again, he's starting a shortstop anyway. And Mark Vientos on a pick closes his eyes, moves his head out of the way, and just lets the ball clank off the heel of his glove, lets a big inning happen. Mets to lose the game. And then Jared Young comes up. Next time Mark Vientos comes to the plate against a right-hander, hits a home run.
Yeah, no, the process we've always talked about with Carlos Mendoza, even when things went well, was head-scratching. We didn't think he was a particularly good in-game manager. It felt like a lot of times there was the feel was very broken. It didn't seem like the feel ever particularly made sense. We really hated how much he shuffled around the lineup so much in terms of where guys were hitting, and he loved pressing the button of, oh, you're struggling, now you go to the leadoff spot. There's a lot of things that could be said about Carlos Mendoza's tenure as a manager, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, the Mets were extremely disappointing as an organization, as a team, performance-wise, when Carlos Mendoza was on the field. And I know a lot of people are going to bring up 2024, but I think it's really important to remember that it took a Latin pop star in JD Martinez getting onto this team for the Mets to completely turn it around. That beginning of the season was an absolute disaster. There's too many ups and downs. It's not an ebb and flow because it's a little bit different, but there's too much up and down. It was too much of a roller coaster. Carlos Mendoza was extremely steady with his emotions, but in terms of performance, the Mets were anything but that.
Yes, and kind of like you said, even the magical year 2024, this team started poorly. The Mets didn't have a consistent season under Carlos Mendoza, and maybe that's kind of futile to expect a consistent season. Baseball is a game built on randomness, 162 games in the season. It just never felt like the team really responded to him in a way that was beneficial to winning. I think they responded to him a lot as a person, as a man. I think they respected him and really liked him as that.
Seems like a great dude. All the stuff that we say about him as a manager has nothing to do with Carlos Mendoza, the person.
And I don't think this team ever quit on Carlos Mendoza. I never saw blatant issues with effort, even in the disaster game on Wednesday night that we gave you guys the emergency episode after last time, which was one of the worst baseball games I've ever seen a team play. It wasn't effort. It was sucking. Big difference there. Huge difference. It was being bad at baseball, not wanting to play baseball.
Yeah, I think if there was ever something to, talk about in terms of the players and Mendoza, the connection between the two, it just felt like there was a lack of preparedness at times. It felt like this team played hard, but sometimes they weren't ready to play the game that was in front of them, whether it was the preparedness at the plate for the pitchers that are coming into the game, or defensive positioning, or even just something, again, as simple as there was 6 errors in a baseball game. That doesn't happen at the Little League level in games, and that happened for a professional baseball team. The players were not put in situations to be the most advantageous or successful. I don't think they're the most prepared. I don't think they were the sharpest. And at some point, it does have to fall on the manager. And for everybody saying, well, David Stearns, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. He's not going to fire himself. The manager is always going to be the first pin to fall. Now all the pressure does go to David Stearns about what this team can look like moving forward, but Carlos Mendoza, I think we can objectively say, did not do a good job as the manager of the New York Mets. He's 206 and 199.
Totally. Both guys did a poor job heading
Yes.
into this season. Absolutely true. And I do think that there's something about organizational structure here. This isn't Mets specific. This is everywhere where the manager is going to have to eat a lot of shit for the executive because the executive built the roster. The manager can just play the roster. And then the executive's probably going to have to eat some shit for the owner because we don't know exactly the directives they're getting from up top. Apparently there's none. There's just everything goes together. So you're always eating shit for the person above you. So I guess that also gives you more slack, which is why I kind of thought that we might have gone through this whole season and Mendoza may have not gotten fired. But what did we say from Harper's Hits the other day? Like, all that shit was happening, and Mendoza looked numb on the top step. Like, he did kind of look numb for the last month. I think he knew he was a dead man walking.
I mean, he looked
this
numb
entire
last
season.
He looked numb last year, too. And I feel like at times, like, you do want that steady hand. You want that even keel guy, right? But for a team that so desperately seemed to need a spark so many different times, even in the season of 2024, their most successful season that they had, you can point to a moment where they literally had this huge spark, this massive thing happen, and it turned things around. And it seems like this team and this organization, whether for good or bad, needs that. And Mendoza's not that guy either.
No, I mean, but also, are there that many guys like that in the league anymore? Are there many rah-rah managers left?
Might not be. I mean, I think Pat Murphy's a guy who can get some people going. I think he's got
But
a little spark in him.
He's also a big softy.
He's a softie, but I do think like and something that we've talked about, and maybe me more so than that, is I don't necessarily know how much of like a leader of men Carlos Mendoza is. It seems like Carlos Mendoza was a very player manager focused, and I think there is totally space in baseball for player managers. We've seen them work in the past, but you do at some point need to hold these guys accountable. And even the fact that Mark Vientos started at first base after having a 2-error game when Wagaman is there, like, Wagaman probably should have just started just simply off the thing of, hey, Mark Vientos, unacceptable play. We have to see if somebody else has got it. And he couldn't do that.
Hey, SeatGeek is MLB's official ticket marketplace. And in addition to finding every single game on the MLB calendar, there are big events coming up very soon.
There's an all-star game. There's a home run derby. And if you think you're perfect and you can pick the right seat at the home run derby to get the most home run balls, you can get the little green dot, and that might be your lucky seat. Don't go red dot, though, because you might not get any balls. But go green dot and get as many home run balls as you think you can catch.
Yep. You click the seat. You check out what your view is. Each ticket's rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. And that's what AJ's talking about. Green good, red bad, with those dots. And the code for you, Territory10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any MLB tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description of this episode. That'll help you download the app and get the code automatically added to your account so that you can use it later. Thank you to SeatGeek.
And those first few at-bats he had were terrible, and he takes that at-bat against the righty. It is just the small things of not seemingly understanding the leverage, doing a little bit of mavericking and trusting his gut. Yeah, APS, over and over again. But these are the things that us, Mark and I, gave Mendoza credit for when things worked out 2 years ago. There's a manager with feel. His manager knows when to trust his gut. Turns out that's a hard thing to rely on over and over again.
Yes.
And we'll probably never really know, or at least until the articles come out next Monday, about what the spread was in lineups and decision-making processes between the front office and the manager here. But there were a lot of decisions that were made, and we talked about you with you guys every single week that were like, there's no one who would make that decision if they had numbers in front of them. It felt like too
remember
many of those
Alex Carrillo in 2025 coming in out of the All-Star break?
First pitcher out of the All-Star break in a close game, Alex Carrillo. And again, things like not pinch hitting Mark Vientos against the righty the day before. Things like you said, having Mark Vientos in the lineup. Like, it seems like maybe that could have been a sticking point as well, sticking with your guy, Mark Vientos, because you were there, you were his manager for the breakout season, and you're hoping that guy comes back. I could see that having been a pressure point, a wedge between Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns, while also understanding that probably a lot of these moves did come from David Stearns. We'll never know about all the horrible lefty lineups, the Andy Ibanez, the Austin Slater time in May. Like, we don't know who was making those decisions. I'm assuming that was David Stearns. There's probably some kind of conversation about what was happening in lineup every single day, but it's just, regardless, it was time for this to happen.
Yeah, no, it was time, and I think it was time a month ago. Might have been a time almost 2 months ago. Might have been time by the end of last season when the Mets had an absolutely catastrophic second half collapse and couldn't get anything going. At the end of the day, Carlos Mendoza started off with an absolute bang, and it's been worse and worse and worse and worse ever since. And he just simply cannot be the manager of the New York Mets any longer.
No, well, he's not the manager of the New York Mets any longer.
Yeah, no, it's Andy Green now.
No, and quick recap of Andy Green's credentials here, reading right off the Wikipedia. He led the Missoula Osprey to the Pioneer League Championship in 2012. 2013, led the Mobile Bay Bears to consecutive first, second half titles, Southern League Manager of the Year. 2015, got his first job at the Major League bench, third base coach at Diamondbacks. Then he was the Padres manager for a few years. He was
Don't
2
look
years.
at their records.
Don't look at their records. Not a very good time. But he was the first, wasn't he the first Preller manager? The second?
He might have been, yeah. And that 2019 team, that would have been Tatis, right? That would have been Tatis' rookie year?
That 2015 team, that was when they went ballistic, though. They had the first crazy offseason with Preller.
Yeah, and he came in for 2016, Andy Green. That was his first year managing the Padres.
Uh-huh, yeah, okay. So maybe it was the second Preller year after the team completely fell apart in 2015, and he had to trade everybody, then retrade everybody. Then he was fired from that job, and then he was bench coach for the Cubs, and then he's been in our front office.
Yeah, no, he's been working player development side, I believe.
Senior VP of Player Development.
Yes, and he has experience. People, sometimes don't like these first-time managers, even though a lot of the ones I know he's not. So There you go. You can't be mad about that. He's also interim, and the season's over. So whatever. Andy Green was probably just the guy who wanted to manage this team, honestly.
Yeah, right. And this probably is about Andy Green having a good relationship with David Stearns.
Yes.
These two guys working together closely, with Green being the VP of Player Development. There's probably also going to be about Green now in the second half of this team playing this roster in a player development style.
I was going to say developing the players at the major league level, which is something that we have seen some inconsistencies with for the Mets, especially with just playing time for some of these guys that are trying to develop.
And this season is over, patently speaking, and we can say that very openly, especially after getting just swept by the Cubs after losing 2 straight to the Phillies, this latest 6-game losing streak. The official, final nail in the coffin. There's absolutely no chance this team makes a playoff run. So this is about seeing who's going to be here in 2027, who's real and who's fake. This is the last gasp of air for Brett Beatty and Ronnie Mauricio, still with their final options, definitely as trade chips. This is seeing what's good with Bo Bichette. What are you going to do? How good is Jared Young? What's going to happen with Eric Wagaman? What are we going to get out of Benjamin Ewing? No, I'm serious, because it's actually going. Those guys are actually absolute candidates for the roster next season.
I know, it's just insane to say out loud. Like we're talking about the 2026 Mets, and I heard you just say out of your mouth on video, "Got to see what Eric Wagaman could look like."
100%.
It's an insane world we live in.
He entered the game yesterday, and everything changed on the dime. Like those two guys should be at first base right now. Should be no more Mark Vientos. I'm being honest about that.
Mark Vientos should not play again.
Mark Vientos can definitely play against lefties because he still hits them well, but there has to be a lot of manicuring of when he comes in and out of games, because he can't hit righties and he can't play defense at any position. And again, that may have been the final nail in the coffin yesterday in terms of Carlos Mendoza's decision making, because I was there with my whole family. I was like, why in the world is Mark Vientos getting this at bat against a righty? There just can't be a reason for this.
No, it did. It again, from a process standpoint, it made absolutely zero sense. But yeah, Carlos Mendoza, it wasn't good. Should we switch the conversation now to the sentiment online?
Yeah, definitely.
Bullshit's going on the internet right now. Just patently speaking, bullshit. You're seeing every beat reporter and every media person and this and that. Like you mentioned early on, like, was Carlos Mendoza Mother Teresa? Because the way that his firing now is being talked about in the media, when it's so obvious he should have been fired. It was obvious a month ago. This team lost 12 straight games. They're 15 games out of first place in the NL East. Like, there has never been a more obvious firing than this one right now. And it's being talked about as if the team had all the success in spite, or not, because I shouldn't say in spite, all the success, and Carlos Mendoza was a part of every reason for that. Yes.
Also, these are people in the media who had day-to-day relationships with Carlos Mendoza.
Yes.
And when your friend gets fired from, like, the coolest job the best job your friend's ever had, you're like, oh, I feel bad for my friend. And also, there is, like I said before, there's the push and pull between Mendoza and David Stearns, where David Stearns freezes every single one of these media people out consistently. Yes. Doesn't seem to really give them anything.
I even said he had horrible answers the other day.
He did. Seems to make their job more difficult on an absolute, not even day-by-day basis, hour-by-hour basis. So it makes tons of sense to absolutely cop for the guy that you liked more, that treated you with more respect than the other guy.
I do love just also hearing how David Peterson talks with the Cubs started 6 weeks ago. We didn't hear a peep about it. It drives these media people absolutely insane that they can't get a morsel of a leak from the New York Mets front office. A big reason is part of David Stearns. But the thing that does bother me, again, is the revisionist history stuff that also goes on here. Like John Heyman going on MLB Network and mentioning incorrectly, unless he was being tongue-in-cheek, but I don't think he has that kind of juice to him, where he said Luis Robert, Luis Robert, and Jorge Polanco have never been injured. I surely that has to be sarcastic, but he didn't have a sarcastic tone to it. Then also talking about how the Mets were given Carlos Mendoza was given an awful roster this year, when I'm pretty sure we have articles from Heyman in the offseason talking about all the great moves that they made. Yeah. Everybody doing this, and even Passan did it yesterday too, about that the entire Mets season has been an litany an error. When I believe Jeff Passan talked about how the Mets were like one of the 5 teams that could win a World Series this year. It's crazy how there is a lot of revisionist history when this stuff happens, and we've seen it happen with these guys too, like when Jared Porter got hired and stuff like that. But
Mickey,
at the end of the day, it was a failure of a season. It is a failure of a season. David Stearns deserves,
two failures of seasons.
Yeah, 2 failures of season. David Stearns deserves a ton of flack. It's a lot of his fault. He's made a lot of very bad decisions that have backfired. But to pretend like the decisions when they were made were being lauded, and then now because they didn't work, it's like, well, yeah, we actually knew that this was going to be the case.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And also the fact that, thinking about leverage for a second, one guy's a 5-year deal. One guy doesn't have any more years on his contract.
Yeah.
That's it. The one guy with the more time, the more guaranteed money committed to him is going to stay longer.
He's not going to fire himself.
The whole season was really weird from the jump when Carlos Mendoza kept his job. It was. Yes. Every single coach around him got fired. Some who left on their own accord. Some we wanted to bring back and didn't come back. Some we didn't want to bring back. Some we did fire. And now you have a team with an entirely new roster, a staff with all new coaches, but the same guy standing in the middle. It just didn't make any sense. It was difficult for him, I'm assuming, to earn true, honest respect. The team completely lacked accountability. They never looked prepared. It was the whole thing just felt bad the whole time, which, again, it's not all Carlos Mendoza's fault. But to sit here and say it's not his fault at all
is crazy.
That's disingenuous.
Yeah, like we did our Blame Pie video the other day. What would we give Mendoza? 30, 35%, I think?
Something like that.
And I think that's totally fair. Like, even talking to, shout out our British friend Kieran, who he was like asking me more like, what can the manager's role be? And I was explaining, I was explaining to him like how baseball isn't tactical like these other sports, but they do still have an impact. It is just at a different level. And Carlos Mendoza's impact that he had, the decisions that he could make, he just didn't really make the right decisions almost ever.
Here's another part of it to judge this. And my dad and I did this on the train yesterday because we smelled it in the air after the doubleheader on Wednesday.
Yeah, of course.
Can you remember, first, do you think Carlos Mendoza gets another MLB managerial job?
I don't.
Can you remember the last former Mets manager to get a job in managing a Major League Baseball team after managing the Mets?
Oh, God. All right.
We did this from memory.
Let me try to go through then real quick. So it was Mendoza, then Buck. So Buck hasn't gotten one.
No.
Then it was technically Carlos Beltran. He's not getting one. Then it was Mickey Callaway. He's never getting another one. Before Mickey, it was Terry. Terry's not getting another job. Before Terry, it was Jerry Manuel.
Oh, yeah.
And then, he didn't get another job managing.
No.
And then it was Willie Randolph. He hasn't gotten another job managing. And then before Willie Randolph, it was Art Howe, and he hasn't gotten another job managing. And before him, it was Bobby Valentine.
It was Bobby Valentine. What happened when Bobby Valentine got another job managing?
He got fired very quickly because he was not fit to manage.
Because his players were drinking beer and eating chicken wings in the clubhouse.
Oh, God.
So we have this long-standing record of not bringing managers up, but getting the guys who kind of are on their last stint. And again, that's not changed in the Steve Cohen era.
Luis Rojas. Forgot Luis Rojas.
Yeah,
He hasn't gotten hired either, but he also got it in a weird situation.
Yeah, he also got third base coach job, so that's something.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the measure right now. Like I don't think he gets the job again, and I think that Carlos Mendoza showed that his in-game decision-making was brutal. He didn't have a team prepared fundamentally, and again, a lot of that reflects on the players, but manager, multiple years. And again, we talked about this. A lot of the lack of cohesion with this team in the early part of the season does kind of have to fall on Carlos Mendoza. Like you have all winter and all spring. The coaches were all new and it was bad. And again, very difficult situation for you to succeed in. Completely, almost entirely set up to fail this year, Carlos Mendoza specifically. But you're going to be a great manager. You got to overcome that. And that's probably not that fair to him, but it just wasn't overcome. And that is something that happened, and it sucks, but it's true.
You also just can't have the same record as the Los Angeles Angels and expect to keep your job.
And every game it was an in-game decision. We're like, what's going on? There were weeks at a time where Devin Williams didn't pitch. It was hard to manage the pinch hitting. The ABS challenges have not even improved really in iota as the season's gone on. Over and over again, there were things that were like, okay, if there was a good manager here, I think this would be handled differently, and it wasn't. So at some point you have to look in the mirror and be like, I think this might not be a good manager.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Carlos Mendoza, that I believe is the case, and we will find out if he ever gets hired again. We'll see what the rest of the league thinks about him, but I do think that this is his last managerial job, and that should tell you everything about what everyone else thinks about this manager outside the Mets world.
I think he'll get another job.
Yeah, just not a MLB manager job. Unless it's the Angels, maybe, when they fire Kurt Suzuki after his one-year contract.
Another one here, Steve Phillips. This is not Carlos Mendoza's fault. I thought this was a clumsy roster from the start. Why didn't you say that in March, Steve?
Steve Phillips actually...
Oh, he did?
Steve Phillips was a hater of the Mets from the start because I remember being like, we shouldn't listen to this guy. Definitely don't Google Steve Phillips on Wikipedia and see what his history is. But
broken clocks.
Yeah, broken clocks right twice a day. I've done it a couple times.
Yeah, it is. Again, saying the roster's clunky, fair. That
totally
was us
fair.
Being way too rose-colored coming into the season and thinking this roster was much better than it was. Also, the fact that I think it was Michael Barron was like he's rotated through 6 first basemen. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's not really a reason that the manager should not be at fault because there were a couple different first basemen that you played all season. That's just kind of how, God.
If Pete Alonso was on this team, we have 38 wins.
Yeah, we have a few more wins for sure. Yeah. A few more wins.
We're 38 and 44.
We're probably a little bit closer to the wild card race, but also,
probably still might be looking to trade Pete Alonso if he took a contract with opt-out.
Wow. I'm getting insane takes in my Twitter timeline. I don't even want to read that one because I don't like the person who said it.
No, the takes are legitimately horrendous right now that I'm seeing from the media. I think that it's crazy that we can't have these two things be true. Like we said very, very early on in this episode, and it's probably how we're going to leave you. Two things can be true. Carlos Mendoza is a bad manager. David Stearns has done a bad job as the president of baseball operations. Both things can be true. David Stearns won't fire himself first.
No, absolutely. It's very hard to say that both of those are not true.
Yes, it would be impossible.
Very impossible to say that both of those are not true. And this is also, thankfully, I think, again, like we said before, the final nail in the coffin, I think that Steve Cohen is now committing to selling.
Yes.
So I'm very excited I'm not excited to sell at the deadline, but I'm happy to salvage the lost season in any possible way we can, in any way whatsoever.
Playing for 2027. Let's see what we got going into next year. Let me get excited about something next season.
I don't know. Just make player development the focus the rest of the year. See who's going to be on the 2027 team. See if Andy Green can actually be your manager next season. We said,
or if he even wants to, he might like the player development job. He's like, whatever, I can do this.
Back to the front office. Definitely funny for now. Getting all these coaches looking around who probably smell blood in the water coming to this job in the winter, being like, damn it.
Well, they also didn't do a good job, so
for sure.
They shouldn't be They shouldn't be given this opportunity at all either.
So now we might have to reset the coaching staff entirely for the second season in a row, which is a very difficult thing. I kind of had the thought yesterday, too, about why this team has struggled so much. All these first-time coaches in these positions could be trying to do a little too much too quick, trying to change
or
too much
not
stuff
knowing
up.
what to do.
Not knowing when to do it. It's just a lot of – and again, it's not like Carlos Mendoza was like the most experienced manager in the world. This wasn't like Lou Piniella in the 2000s.
No, they didn't fire Buck Showalter.
No. Managing like a silly Tampa Bay Rays team that was trying to get over the hump for the first time. Like, this was a lot of people who were trying to learn what they were doing on the fly.
And that probably was another mistake by David Stearns.
Big mistake by David Stearns. Again, set up to fail. Still didn't do a good job, Carlos Mendoza.
Carlos Mendoza has been fired. That's what we've got. If you're expecting more, I mean, we've been waiting for it for months, so I just don't have the juice to scream and yell about how excited I am. But let's see what the Mets got. Phillies coming up later today. They're going to beat the piss out of us.
I mean, this team is so bad. Like, watching this team play baseball last night, I was like, this is so bad. I got a Juan Soto bobblehead on Thursday. I walked in the stadium 6:45.
That's so bad.
It's a good bobblehead, too. He's got the little
The
crash.
bobblehead rocks. Great bobbleheads, but bad baseball team.
I was going to put it up before. I assume we did the episode this afternoon, so I didn't have time to because we did this like real quick.
But that's all we got for you guys, right? Nothing else?
That's it. I'm good.
Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to Mets'd if you're listening to us. Appreciate you. Download the podcast. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go, Mets.